Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Daniel, and today in this video we'll be covering a chess.com training game that I played recently. So I was playing the white pieces, and let's take a look at what happened. So d4, e5, c4, and here my opponent goes for the queen's gambit accepted here with d captures on c4. Here I play knight f3, which is the main line. Longtime viewers might also know that I play the move e3 here. The only issue is that there is the move e5 here, which most of my opponents don't really play, but I decided to take a look at knight f3, so I've been playing that recently. Knight f3, a6, I play e3, and here bishop to g4, pinning the knight to the queen. Here I simply capture back this pawn, so now I have a bishop targeting f7, and there is potential ideas of playing something like, let's say, black plays like a move like knight to c6, then there is bishop captures on f7, king captures on f7, and knight to g5 check, king to g6 to attack the knight. However, here this opened up the line of attack for the bishop, so I can just simply capture this bishop, and here I would be up a pawn, as well as have a completely winning position, purely because, well, black's king is out in the open, and I'm also up a pawn in that case. So going back here, my opponent plays e6, which makes sense. Here I castle. Knight b to d2, knight to d7. Here I just play h3, kicking the bishop away. Bishop h4, I play knight c3. Knight f6, this is all pretty standard. Since this diagonal is already blocked for my bishop, I have to put my bishop on the long diagonal here with b3 and bishop b2 to control, and also that also helps to control more squares. So b3, bishop b6, bishop g6, sorry, bishop b2, bishop to b4, and here I play queen e2, pretty typical in the queen's gambit, even in the Slav, or the semi-Slav, in fact. The idea is to push e4 at some point, and that's what the queen's role here is. And then you can also play rook fd1 and rook ac1 to control the two semi-open files here. Here, c5, here rook f to d1, b5, I bring my bishop back, here queen to b6, and here the best choice would have been to play something like bishop captures on g6, and after h captures on g6, I can play the move e4 here, which was my plan, and then if takes, then I can simply play knight takes, and I have this really strong central pawn here. However, instead I go for this more arbitrary idea of the move a4. The idea with a4 is that if you capture here on a4, then after something like rook captures on a4 or even knight captures on a4, then you'll see there's a lot of pressure that's opened up on this a6 pawn here, with the queen, the bishop, as well as the rook on a1. Not to mention my knight is currently attacking the queen, and once the queen moves, then I'm able to capture this pawn, which also opens up the scope of this b2 bishop. So going back here after a4, my opponent played the what I anticipated, which is bishop captures on c3, bishop takes, and here played the move b4. Better here would have been to play b captures on a4, and here after something like bishop captures on g6, h captures on g6, and b captures on a4, so that the b3 pawn is no longer hanging. This position is still better for white, as white does have the dark squared bishop, which is unopposed. White is able to bring their rook into the open file really quickly. Black is still uncastled in this position, which they should probably get castled on the next move. In fact, top computer choice is to castle right away, at which point there is rook d to b1 to take control of this open file. Also going back here, this pawn tension can always be resolved. If black ever captures, then you can play bishop captures on d4, hitting the queen, and this bishop's on a really nice square here. And if you don't take, then white has the choice of playing like pawn takes, or even playing e4 and d5 at some point, which can be very good for white. So basically white is for choice here. After bishop takes, instead my opponent plays b4. Here I capture on c5 first, attacking the queen. You don't have time to take this bishop, because then I can simply capture this queen here on b6. So here, and also if you play queen captures on c5, then here I can play bishop to d5, and this position is really good for white. So my opponent plays knight captures on c5, and this looks like I have blundered, because here black is attacking this pawn on b3, this bishop on d3, as well as this bishop on c3. However, here I find the move bishop to d4, which ties the whole position together. This knight is now pinned to the queen, so there's one less attacker on this bishop. So my opponent plays bishop captures on d3, and here I play rook captures on d3. And you can't actually capture this rook, because then I can simply capture the bishop. I can simply capture the queen because the knight is pinned. And that also means you can't capture b3 because, well, I simply capture the queen. So here bishop captures on d3. Better here would actually be queen captures on d3, which I didn't actually see because after knight takes and bishop takes, this knight is kind of stranded in black and white's position pretty much. Like here after knight d7 and something like a5 even, to basically consolidate this bishop. And if you take, then I get a pass pawn and I'm still attacking this knight. So that's not good for black. So rook takes, and here my opponent brings another piece into the game with rook c8, and I follow suit with rook c1. And here I played rook c4. My idea here is very simple. There's a lot of pressure on the c5 knight, and you'll notice that this queen, which is the piece that's behind the knight, doesn't actually have that many good moves. Queen a5 is really passive. If you go there, then you do get this knight out. However, this was also the other benefit of bringing the rook. This rook is pinning the knight to the rook on c8. So basically, this knight can't move until after both of these pieces, the rook as well as the queen, have already moved. And what you'll notice is that the queen has to stay protecting this knight whenever it moves, because I have two attackers on this knight. So there's only a couple of squares you can go to. You can go to c6, where I can play the move knight to e5 and attack the queen again. You can go to d6, however, that isn't the best because I'm still pinning. And also, I can probably play bishop captures on c5, like after queen to d6. I can play bishop captures on c5 because I have this rook here, discovered, attack the queen. You can play queen a7, but that's really passive. And here I can still play rook c4, which is what I play in the game. Not in this position, but similar position. And as I mentioned, queen a5 is really passive. You're putting your queen on like a really weird square. So instead here, my opponent castles, and here I play the move rook c4. My idea is to play rook d1, rook c1, and then I can play queen c2. And black doesn't actually have a good defense against this plan, even though white has to spend 3 moves to achieve it. Here knight d7 is tried. I play rook d1, queen a5, and here I play the move queen c2. Since black moved their queen out of the way, this pawn is actually under threat, so I play queen c2 to simply defend, and it also sets up another threat. It sets up rook d to c1. And another interesting thing with this move queen c2 is that it also simultaneously targets the queen side. So this move really shows the power of the queen, because as you can see, there's no defenders on the king side currently. So I can play knight g5 at some point to threaten checkmate on h7. So let's say black plays something like rook c7, then after rook c1 and rook f to c8, it seems like this knight is defended. It has 2, and obviously the 2 rooks defending this knight. So there's 4 defenders and 4 attackers. So if we trade everything, it should be an equal trade. However, here I do have this move knight to g5. The idea is I'm trying to get to h7 with the queen. So queen captures on h7 is a big threat. And here if you play something like h6, then here I can still play queen h7. So let's say g6, for example, to prevent queen h7. Then here I have the very nice move knight e4. This is sort of the idea with queen c2 as well, is that I can reroute this knight into the e4 square, where it will also be attacking, after g6, where it will also be attacking this knight. And now I have 5 attackers. All of my pieces are really nicely placed. And if you play knight captures on e4, then I can simply play rook takes on c7, rook takes, and here queen captures, and rook captures. And here you have to play knight back to f8 to defend against any checkmate threats, because this bishop does slice through here. And here I can simply play f3, and once the knight moves, I can put my bishop on f6, and this is just a completely dominating position. So here my opponent realized this, and basically here after queen c2 played h6 first, at which point I played rook c1, and now black doesn't have enough time to support this knight. So here knight captures on b3, queen takes, rook takes, and here I very simply captured this b4 pawn, which was black's biggest asset, also threatening to treat queens. And after queen e4, I play bishop captures on g7. If you take the bishop, I can take the rook. Take the queen. If the queen moves, which happened in the game, then here I can simply capture the rook. After knight takes and rook to g4 check, here my opponent resigned the game, seeing that if you block with the knight, then I get queen b8 check, and I'm probably breaking through somehow and getting checkmate. And if you play queen king h7, I can play queen d3 check, attacking the king, and I can bring this knight in at some point, and I can probably win the game. So yeah, 29 moves, and And also, this is sort of similar to like a sequel to what I presented in the previous videos, where I mentioned the rating difference between 2200 and 2100. In fact, I really do believe it exists, because this time my opponent was rated at the time of the game 2195. So pretty much they were right on the cusp of 2200. Like, in fact, I would argue they probably do have 2200 strength. They just maybe tilted, or for example. So they were really on the cusp of getting to 2200, but yet I being 2241 at the time, it really shows the difference. Even like 30-40 points does matter between 2100 level skill and 2200 skill, as evident in this game, as I simply destroyed my opponent in 29 moves. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed this game. Lots of tactical and attacking flair combined with positional play. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed this game, and thanks for watching.